Do you ever feel like most sequels kinda suck? I mean, it is really hard to capture and improve upon the magic of something good, especially when that something good was considered revolutionary for its time. But once in a blue moon, we get a sequel that not just improves but absolutely dookies on its predecessor and changes the game again. If you watched my previous Batman video, you know that I think that Arkham Asylum is still really good. But Arkham City straight up blows Arkham Asylum out of the water, bro. This game straight up says,
life is good, but it can be better.
Stealth is pretty much the same here, but there's just more types of takedowns even from the beginning. You have all the takedowns from the previous games plus new ones like the environmental takedowns, hanging takedowns, double takedown, and I'm not talking about the kind Zendaya got going on, straight up getting tag teamed by dudes while Tom Holland sits in the corner bawling his eyes out.
She belongs to the streets.
The enemies are a tiny bit smarter, like they break gargoyles now, but not smart enough to not fall for shit like this.
Get over here! Get over here! Get over here! Get over here!
And I've cleared the entire room. Stealth is good, but there are no massive improvements. The head-on combat though has seen some massive improvements, especially to the gadgets. Guys, my favorite thing about Batman is that he's an equal rights believer. I think it is great that you don't have to reobtain the combat gadgets that Batman already had in the previous game. I always hate it when you somehow lose all your abilities and essential items in a sequel.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off.
You can now quick throw 3 batarangs in one go. Quick grapple is actually useful now. It can be used to disarm enemies and also do this. Now explosive gel can also be quick used to get the enemies off your ass when being overcrowded. There's also new gadgets like the freeze nades, which just seem so unfair for these simple mobster fools. And my personal favorite gadget in the game, the electric gun. Yes, that's what I'm gonna call it. It is satisfying to use generally as well, but even more so when you use it on the bigger enemies. The enemy variety has also seen improvements as well. The game carries over all the enemy types from the previous game. There's new enemy types as well, such as these shield guys who are a real pain in the ass and can end a good combo if you're not careful. And there's also these armored goons who literally need to be beat down. Batman, stop! He's already dead! By the way, if you're enjoying this video till now, please be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot and I really appreciate it, my dudes. The upgrades are also great and actually make a huge difference. My personal favorite upgrades are the new special moves like the Bat Swarm and the one I use the most, multi-ground takedown. Damn, that was badass. There's just so many more options and things to do with the combat now. I think the most fun way to play this game is to keep thinking about how you can use the different moves to defeat the enemies quicker and in a varied way. For example, remember this beatdown enemy I just told you about? Of course you do. Unless you have Alzheimer's. Major skill issue, bro. Well, you don't even have to hit him with the Wombo combo. You can defeat him easily by just electrocuting and then performing the ground takedown. And that is just one of the many different ways. Using the various gadgets, walls, stun moves, and everything else together is seamless now, and it is just so much fun to try and use everything at your disposal effectively during combat. Of course, you don't necessarily need to use the gadgets and all, but believe me, taking the time to actually learn to use them makes you feel even more badass. Some might even say it makes you feel like a rich orphan with PTSD. Like if you actually get good here, you can make Batman fight like an absolute menace and just bully these poor bastards.
That one didn't age quite so well.
The sound effects are also a little less cartoony now, which I appreciate, and like all in all, the combat in Arkham Asylum was already good, and this is just way better and so much more fun in every way possible. An even bigger facelift, however, has been received by the Traversal system, and it is the biggest upgrade compared to the previous game, hands down. Since Arkham City is an actual city, the gliding is actually an essential part of the game now. In general, the gliding is faster and you can increase the speed further by switching between diving and gliding at any time. You also have a grapnel boost now, which makes it so that you never have to stop while traversing. The line launcher can change directions at any time now, thank God. The best feature, however, guys, is that Batman can now hang from helicopters, and no, that's not a suicide joke. The movement is really smooth and satisfying and one of the best parts of the game. I just wish that the gliding was a little faster and that you could use the line launcher while being perched somewhere. Like, why the hell am I not able to do that? But overall, it is really fun to get from place to place in this game. Oh, and you can also do this now.
That's gonna leave a mark.
Active gameplay wise, this is the biggest change in comparison to Arkham Asylum, and none of that would be possible without Arkham City itself. This is how you make a jump to an open world game, goddammit. The only other series where I can think the transition from linear world to open world actually paid off like this is The Witcher 3.
His genitals. We ought to inspect those.
Arkham City is a hellhole. It's straight up Ohio in this bitch. The buildings, locations, and how detailed everything is really immerses you into what this setting is going for. It is a home of the criminals and it really shows. Also, whoever came up with the idea of making the waypoint the bat signal is a genius, and I hope they got the raise they deserved. Visually, this game has aged really well and has carried its charm through the years. The lighting is beautiful, the textures are sharp, and the character models are just infinitely better than in Arkham Asylum. Characters actually look like people now instead of orangutans. I love Monkey, by the way. Arkham City is not as heavily comic book stylized as its predecessor. I still think that game is the most distinct looking with its comic book UI and stuff. All that has definitely been made more modernized and techy here. But just because Arkham City is an open world, it doesn't mean that it doesn't experiment with its looks. It does so with its indoor areas like the iceberg lounge, the chemical plants, and more. The visual variety is present here and it is really damn good. As a whole, or a hellhole to be precise, Arkham City is just extremely well crafted from the inside out.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
But what do you actually do in this city, other than normal traversing and beating ass, that is? Well, you can save civilians, collect Riddler trophies, do AR challenges to test your traversal skills, and get the grapnel boost, by the way. You also do various side missions which range in quality from
Damn, that shit good.
to
Don't waste my motherfucking time.
I can't believe I'm saying this, my favorite are the Riddler side missions. These are short, sweet, and just very interestingly crafted and require your wits to solve. The only downside is that you have to collect a certain number of stupid time-consuming house chore-ass Riddler trophies to unlock them. God, this is tedious. The other side missions see Batman doing good detective work and facing off against villains like Mad Hatter and Deadshot. These missions make you go like, damn, with this much quality, that could have been a main mission. While other times you're doing mundane shit like tracing calls and ripping off electrical panels. Still, the side activities in the game are good, mainly because the core gameplay is so strong. Now, before we move on to the main story, here's a surprise for you kids.
What the hell?
Sorry to disappoint you boys.
You also get to play as Catwoman.
Yes! Hell yeah!
Her combat feels faster, more acrobatic and agile as she vaults and moves all over the place with absolutely phenomenal animations, man. Catwoman's animations for everything in this game are just so slick. She can also stick to grates, which helps her get to tough to reach spots and is also useful for stealth. I don't like her traversal system though. It is this sort of stop and go type thing which has no damn momentum, man. It doesn't even come close to how much better Batman's traversal is. Still, I can let that slide for two big reasons. Batman Arkham City's story takes place in, surprise surprise, Arkham City, which is a massive super prison that contains Gotham's most notorious criminals. Yes, Conor McGregor is there as well. During the opening titles, we see Bruce getting captured at a conference and being brought into Arkham City. Here he must don the cape and stop Protocol 10, a mysterious plot by one of the main villains of the game, Hugo Strange. The real kicker is, Hugo Strange actually knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
I feel I should thank you. Capturing Bruce Wayne is so much easier than Batman.
Along the way, Batman encounters many enemies and allies, such as the Joker, who is dying from a disease from the Titan formula from the previous game, and Catwoman, who has her own agenda in the story. Batman must also find a cure for himself and the Joker, because he got caught lacking and Joker managed to infect him with his tainted blood. Massive L. Now with all the odds stacked against him as the clock ticks on Protocol 10 and his own life, Batman must overcome these challenges to save countless lives, including his own. The rest is up to you to find out, and I won't spoil anything major. This is one of the best Batman stories ever told, and definitely the best in the entire Arkham series. The game explores themes of morality, power, and the complexities that come with being a hero so beautifully, it's ridiculous. The writing here is also phenomenal. Some dialogues from this game will forever be ingrained in my memory.
It was all a lie. There's nothing wrong with you.
Nice of you to say, but you of all people should know there's plenty wrong with me.
You already know that the acting is perfect, and the actors just have so much more material to work with this time around, so the entire cast finally gets to shine to their full potential compared to the last game, and that is especially noticeable with Kevin Conroy.
Today is not a good day to push me, Victor. Stop!
The rest of the cast also do a phenomenal job and show off why they are some of the most beloved versions of these characters. Even newcomers to the Arkhamverse like Catwoman are so good in their role that it doesn't even feel like it's their first time around in these games.
How's it hanging, Harv?
This story understands Batman so well, I feel like if it was adopted into a movie, it would probably be one of the best superhero movies ever made. There, I said it. The writing keeps you on your toes in anticipation for what comes next. The characters are smart, witty, and have their own personality. It is genuinely a joy to watch them interact with each other. Many times I had literal goosebumps because this is the most definitive representation of these characters I've ever seen put to a screen. And all of it is made better by the music. Don't get me wrong, the music in Arkham Asylum was good, but it always felt somewhat unimportant to me. But now the music is such a huge and important part of the experience. This game's main theme is my favorite Batman theme of all time, and that's saying something considering how many great Batman themes there are. When someone says Batman music, this is immediately what comes to my mind. This entire soundtrack fits this character in a way words can't describe. When you're just gliding around, it's calm, but when you're fighting, the music starts intensifying and you know shit's about to go down. The game just wouldn't hit the same without this soundtrack, man. Speaking of hits, the boss fights are also really good this time around. Unlike the last game, where most of the times in the name of boss fights, you just fought this one disabled motherfucker over and over again. In this game, you get to face off against actually iconic Batman villains in fights which all try to do something different. Thank God. Every boss fight is unique in its own way, requiring you to change your playstyle. Other than the main villains, you also get to fight Solomon Grundy, Mr. Freeze, Ra's al Ghul, and many more. This is exactly how boss fights should be in a game like this. Fun. Now all these villains I've mentioned till now are cool and all, but the hardest enemy in the game is the remote Batarang sections. God, I hate this shit so much. As Batman has more gadgets now, the puzzles are also more varied, which is good. There's also the right amount of puzzles, but some puzzling sections feel like padding and just take away from the pacing of the game by dragging on for too long. Batman Arkham City's bigger scale also allows for more big bombastic moments. The set pieces here are really cool, and I really appreciate the fact that they are actually part of the gameplay rather than just being cutscenes. Like all in all, there are some moments here where the game slows down for longer than I'd like it to, but majority of the times it does an excellent job at keeping the player hooked. Now let's talk about the extra content in the game. There's various different suits you can equip, my favorite out of which are obviously the animated suits. And thankfully this time around, you can also use them in the main game. The stealth and combat challenges are back and are better than ever, as you now have the option to choose between Batman, Catwoman, and Robin. Now that I've mentioned Robin, there is a whole DLC where you play as him. The events of Harley's Revenge DLC take place after the main game, so I don't want to spoil the plot, but I can talk a bit about the gameplay. Robin plays very similarly to Batman with almost all the same gadgets. He uses his baton to straight up bonk dudes on their heads. His Batclaw is better in my opinion, as instead of pulling dudes towards the player like in Batman's case, Robin's Batclaw straight up yeets him towards the enemies. There is a little bit of padding here to cheese in a little more playtime, but overall, this is a good DLC. So in conclusion, Batman Arkham City still absolutely slaps after almost 12 years of its release. It gets so much right that the problems I listed in this video aren't nearly enough to detract from how much of a fantastic game this is. This is probably my second most played superhero game ever, and for a good reason. Other Batman games have come and gone, and sure, they have done some things better than this game, but in my opinion, Arkham City is such a complete package that in my eyes it has been and probably always will be the best Batman game ever made.